Hey guys, Andy here. So we're taking a look today at the Redmi Note 7. I thought I'd had more Redmi Note phones, but actually I've only had the Redmi Note 2 and the Redmi Note 3, both of them back in 2015. So it's been some time since I've used one of the Redmi Notes. Now, I've bought this one from me.com, as in they are actually shipping to the UK these days, if you didn't know. Previously, you'd have to import them from China or whatever. You might be waiting a month or so. You might get hit with import tax, and you're a bit knackered if you end up with a dodgy phone, because warranty situation can be very tricky. But Xiaomi have now sort of expanded their reach, including the UK. If you didn't know, Xiaomi, they're actually a very big phone manufacturer, fourth or fifth in the world. It's just they're not so well known in the UK or America, so you don't hear as much about them. So this is the Redmi Note 7. Xiaomi generally do make very good hardware. This is no exception. It feels good and solid. Doesn't really feel plastic. It sounds a little plastic, to be fair, but it doesn't really feel sort of very plasticky. We do have a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor, as you can see, which is pretty quick and reliable. I've not really had any issues with it. It comes in blue or black in the UK. They do list Twilight Gold as a colour option on like GSM Arena, but that's not available in the UK. It does come with a free rubbery case, which I generally have used actually. It doesn't add, it's quite thin, doesn't add a lot to the device, but it gives a bit of extra grip, and obviously that peace of mind should you end up dropping it. There's reasonable bezels for it being an LCD device, so the biggest bezel down there at the bottom of the phone, and as you can see, a teardrop notch at the top, which gives the screen quite a nice look. The screen itself is a 6.3 inch IPS LCD. It's 1080 by 2340, which is a 15.5 by 9 ratio, and about 409 pixels per inch. It's all covered with Corning Gorilla Glass 5. It produced 543 lumens in my test on my light meter, which isn't massive. It's kind of, it proper is right in there with all the other budget devices. I wouldn't say I had any problems. It has actually been quite bright recently, but I wouldn't say I really had any problems with visibility, even in the bright sunlight. I mean, it's not great. Obviously, you can have better if you've got a 600 or 700 lumens phone, but generally, it seems a very nice screen. LCDs have got so much better these days. The actual hardware. So the chipset is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 660. The processor, the CPU that is octa-core, 4 by 2.2 GHz Cryo 260 and a 4 by 1.8 GHz Cryo 260. The GPU is a Adreno 512. This particular model has 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage. Silly me jumping on launch day, that was the only one they had available. I thought, well, I don't want to hang around waiting, because you can basically get a 4 GB, 64 GB of storage for £199, so just £20 more. I thought, well, that might be a month or two away. Actually, it's available already, so I probably bought the one that you probably don't want to buy. Having said that, I get about 5,500 on Geekbench 4, which isn't bad. That's pretty good. It's right between the G7 Plus and the Honor 8X, both of which cost more than this device. I do wonder if people get carried away with RAM. Everyone moaned at the Pixel for only 4 gig, and it's a flagship device. It should have more than that. But actually, I mean, maybe I'm not a heavy user. I'm not swapping between lots of different apps. And normally I turn on, I check one thing in one app, and I'm turning off again. My screen on time is not that big, so maybe I'm not actually the average user. But for somebody like me, 3 gig has been fine. I've not really noticed any slowdown. I've not really noticed any lag or stutter. There is also a 4 gig, 128 gigabyte storage for $249. So if you really need that extra storage space, still not a bad price. I think the 4 gig, 64 gig RAM storage for $199 probably is the one you want to aim for, though. But saving £20, you're still getting good hardware with the version that I've got right here. There is a headphone jack. There's also an IR blaster, an IR port, but I've not used that. I don't know where that is, to be honest. And I generally don't use them, so I don't really worry about it. The speaker is actually quite good, I would say. It's scored 88.5 decibels. So it's in the top quarter of the devices I've tested. I love to listen to my podcasts, and actually sounded pretty good.
No, I love it that, Brian, you had the same thought in your early 40s that I in my early 60s of having, which is I must just be too old. I just get cranky. But
that's a reasonably well-rounded sound. I'll play just a tiny bit of music, but YouTube seemed to be clamping down on music playing in videos. So, I mean, I always think if you're listening to music on your phone speaker, something's not right somewhere. So I don't worry too much that it doesn't sound amazing. For me, the podcasts and therefore sort of phone calls and things, they sound really good. So the speaker, probably one of its strengths, to be fair. We're going to move on to the cameras. So it's actually a 48 megapixel camera on the rear. They sort of claim on their website that it's flagship quality. So it's 48 megapixel f1.8, yeah, okay, with a 5 megapixel f2.4 depth sensor. And to be fair, the photos, they look pretty good. I was normally shooting in pretty good conditions, so the sunlight was quite bright, and that always helps. And a lot of phone cameras can look good in those conditions, to be fair. But at the same time, I did a few that are lower light. There was a couple of pictures of flowers which were indoors. It was daytime and it was reasonably well lit, but they were indoors. I think I took a picture of my calendar in the living room with the curtains drawn. It was actually really quite dark in there. I was surprised how good an image it provided at that point. So yeah, the camera, to be fair, pretty good. The front-facing camera is a 13 megapixel f2.2. Both cameras can do 1080p video, I should point out, but we'll come back to video in a second. So the front-facing camera, again, looked pretty good. I didn't try that in dark or anything, just a couple of pictures in reasonably good light, and it looked pretty good. The video, we're looking at the rear-facing camera video, obviously. It seemed pretty good, I thought. Generally quite good detail, good colours. Low light was a little bit noisy, but generally I thought, yeah, it coped. I mean, this wasn't all that dark, but it was dark enough that, you know, cars have the lights on, street lights are on. And it looked okay, a little bit noisy. I also thought the video stabilization was pretty good for a phone of this cost. So I was striding along the path at this point, quite a pace. The the phone was shaking around quite a lot, to be fair, and it does a reasonable job of limiting that. When you're just standing filming, it looked pretty stable. It looked like it could be sat on a tripod of some sort. So yeah, quite impressive. The camera, they claim it's flagship level. I don't know I'll go quite that far, but it is a pretty good camera for only $179, which is good because Xiaomi have often not really bothered with cameras very much, and they've not been all that good. So it's nice to see they're sort of pushing it on a little bit. I'm going to move on to talk about the software, which is often a bit of a issue with Xiaomi devices in my eyes. So we see here in the settings that we're running Android version 9. Security patch level is actually up to date if they've got the date. I'm assuming that's the 1st of May, hopefully, and not the 5th of January. Which, to be fair, if it's the 1st of May, that's pretty good going. We're the 21st right now. That is the latest version. You can see there MIUI version 10.2, and then some other bits and pieces of information. And generally, the settings, I always find Xiaomi settings a little bit confusing and hard to find things because they've just sort of torn it all up and done it their own way. So a little bit weird at times, but it looks quite nice actually. And I think that's really the case for whole of MIUI these days. So it generally looks quite a nice operating system. The launcher, on the other hand, I don't know how it's beyond me. So there's no app drawer. I can't swipe up into an app drawer. It's iOS style. I install an app and it puts the icon there on the home screen. I don't know how iOS users, I mean, I guess maybe they don't know anything different, but it's just a horrible way to operate your device. Obviously the launcher can be fixed with you just install a third-party launcher like Nova Launcher or something, and all your problems are gone. So I'm not holding that too much against it. It generally is quite a nice, slick, even though there's only 3 gig RAM, as I say, it's generally quite nice and slick and quick. So I think they've generally done quite a good job on it. I've turned on gestures. You can have obviously regular buttons at the bottom. I've turned on gestures in that swiping in from the side will go back, or up from the bottom brings you to the home screen, or up the bottom and holding gets you your app switcher. That all works quite well, I would say. I quite like that. I got used to that very quickly. It was a little bit weird in that I would install an app and it does this kind of security check on the phone for you, and while it's doing that, it's got an advert basically for another app. I thought, what, really? The OS is throwing me adverts? They call them app suggestions, and you can turn it off in the settings, which I did. Notifications are still a little bit weird, as has often been the way with Xiaomi. So I have got loads of I have got notifications at the moment. None of them are showing because I have pulled down the notification bar once. It just removes all the icons. Even when I have loads, it only shows a couple of them, it seems. I don't like that. For me, the whole kind of thing of my phone is built around what notifications I have. That's almost like my to-do list, and those are the things I need to know about. That's why they're notifications. So I don't like that I can't see them so well. Likewise, on the lock screen, quite often you don't see anything. A little bit weird. Oh, there is a second space. I haven't bothered using it. Basically, you can set up almost like a whole other profile and user on your phone. If I remember correctly, you can just assign a different fingerprint to it. So you could have another person that has your phone. They register their fingerprint and they set up their own apps. And you can just, depending on who unlocks it, is whose launcher and things and apps and stuff that you see. It's quite clever, actually. I just don't really have any need for it. Similarly, you can do dual apps. So if you've got Facebook, you can have one app set up with one login, and you can kind of duplicate the app and have a whole other person logged into it and switch between the two. So that's quite clever. So all in all, there's some pros and minuses. It looks quite pretty, MIUI 10. It's certainly quite slick. I think if you put a third-party launcher on, you're probably okay with the software, to be fair. Then we're going to come to battery. And this is where I've been really impressed. So it's a 4,000 milliamp hour LiPo battery. It has quick charge 4 should you need it, but actually you barely hardly ever need to charge. So I'm down to 23%. I haven't charged my phone for, actually we might have to go back in and get the latest, but it's basically for a couple of days. Battery performance, power usage, the clock. 2 days, 5 hours, 44 minutes, and I'm at 25%. So it's now Tuesday noon. I haven't charged since Sunday morning. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty good. I mean, it's a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, but so is my Huawei, and that wouldn't last like this. Definitely not. What often has been the way of doing it has been that they would just like really, really aggressively close apps down in the background. You would sometimes miss out on notification things. I've not really noticed that. So when that happens, quite often you have to go through and just set loads of apps to leave these apps alone, don't touch them. And I generally haven't had to do that. So it's really quite impressive what they've managed to do. You can see here, AccuBattery is saying that I would get 11 hours screen on time. Yeah, in these 2 days, I only have about 3 hours of screen on time. I should declare that. Again, as I said, I'm not a massively heavy user. So it reckons 11 hours. I'm not sure, but okay. Screen off, 113 hours. That's huge. And then combined use, so just generally, it's saying 79 hours. That's over 3 days, isn't it? So it's suggesting that I would get through today, which I guess actually, yeah, I probably would. I think that's really quite impressive. So the battery, I would say, is a strong point. So the conclusion, I think generally you're going to be very hard pushed to find a better phone for £179. Maybe you want to spend that £20 more and get an even better phone with 4 gig of RAM and more storage for £199. But the screen, the speaker, the camera, the build quality, the battery, everything is much better than you'd expect for a £179 phone. There's not a lot more I can say. I think the operating system or Xiaomi's skin is the only thing that's letting it down, and even that is getting a lot better. Still not, I would still much prefer stock Android, but it's getting there. Put a third-party launcher on, you notice it less, and it's quite a pretty, slick, smooth OS. So, yeah, I think it's definitely, if you're looking for a phone sort of sub £200, the Redmi Note 7 really should be one that you consider. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, but for now, my name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon. Well done, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you might want to click the little fellow that should hopefully appear about here to subscribe. You may also want to check out some of my other videos, which are going to appear somewhere there. Also, come and have a look at my website, androidandy.uk. There is also a forum. Come and say hello on the forum if you've got any questions about things, or request me to review things, or anything else. Just come and have a chat on the forum.